Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. There's a winter storm watch, winter storm watches and blizzard watches out for the entire shaded area here, looking for 50 to 60 mile per hour winds for St. Lawrence Island. And the watch time is anywhere from late tomorrow night. It could begin, of course, down over the southern areas, big storm coming up from the south in the Bering Sea. So it'll be hitting St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta first, and then working northward. And the watch times out for this is Monday and Tuesday. For St. Lawrence Island, they're looking for winds 50 to 60 miles an hour, and that'll create blizzard conditions with 4 to 7 inches of snow expected. Same thing on the coast here. Inland, winter storm warning out for again, about 4 to 6 inches of snow, give or take, and gusty south to southeast winds. And that'll result in visibilities down to less than a half a mile or even less than a quarter mile at times. Otherwise, on the satellite imagery today, another system, much like yesterday, rolling northward here, except passing right over Yakutat. And that brought those 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts with it as it rolled northward. The front pushing inland, weakening, kind of taking a little time, moving eastward down to the south, with the rain and wind all diminishing this afternoon, and even up along the North Gulf Coast, starting out pretty strong this morning. Those winds coming down currently as the low pulls into the interior and weakens quite rapidly. And snow back through here, of course, occurring over northern Cook Inlet, and areas of snow depending on your orientation to the terrain, coming in across the southeast interior, and some areas of snow also back to the northwest with that old system moving right up into here. And then there's another circulation just almost right on top of St. Lawrence Island. So southwest flow here, bringing some snow showers, a line of shower activity there from Togiak Bay, Cape Newenham, off to the southwest into the eastern Aleutians, and also along the Alaska Peninsula, a break over Kodiak Island there, and northeast Bristol Bay. A pretty good break right through here from the Nunivak Island area, Kipnuk, on back down toward St. Paul, and then more cloudiness in the colder air and quite a widespread area, light snow up over the northwest Bering Sea. Out to the west, a front driving eastward across the western Aleutians, bringing rain and snow and some gusty winds with it. And that'll continue. Actually, first one will weaken, another system will develop, and then race northward into the Bering Sea. Probably this one right here. If it's not that one, then it's one just off to the southwest, but that'll be changing the pattern here, and it'll be one of the garden variety systems pushing into the Bering tomorrow. Otherwise, today we have this low up here over the Bering Strait area, or actually, as I mentioned, right over St. Lawrence Island, and areas of snow with that, snow showers back over the western interior, and then this system moving quite rapidly northward there, and winds diminishing, as I mentioned here, becoming westerly as that center pass northward, weakening over the interior with some clouds, areas of snow, again extending back down into the central Cook Inlet area, drier conditions back to the west. Next system down here, not nearly as organized or strong as the previous two have been, and that's spreading some rain up into the southern southeast coast, or areas of. It looks like tonight that will move right up over the area there, the low center lifting northward to approximately the Petersburg's Wrangell area. And winds, not a problem at all with this, just some areas of rain here across the area. So a pretty weak system by comparison. Periods of snow, at least to start with tonight along the North Gulf Coast, or snow showers. They'll extend back up across the western Copper River Basin area. And snow should end, be mostly this evening here, northern Cook Inlet, maybe another inch or so in that area. and then slowly diminish, taking a little longer to end at Palmer. And anyway, Tanana Valley, areas of light snow there, Alaska Range right up into possibly the Yukon Flats, a break here to the west, Kuskokwim Valley and the Alaska Range, and then a trough pushing area snow or snow showers here inland from the Norton Sound area, Seward Peninsula, right down into northeast Bristol Bay, and then some scattered snow showers behind that. And then this front pressing eastward here, bringing the gale force winds, snow mixing with rain to the Adak-Atka area, less wind, scattered snow showers back to the west. And right in here is the next development that tomorrow will deepen to 972 millibars and pass northward just a little bit farther to the west of the Pribilof Islands. It looked like it would do yesterday, but it's really not going to be much difference. Forecast the same, snow, blowing snow, low visibilities to start with gusty southeast winds, but temperatures will be on the upswing with that southerly wind direction. So again, snow changing over to rain here for the Alaska Peninsula eastern Aleutians as that front pushes in with those good south to southeast winds. And then this low continuing into the Chukchi Sea, snow, blowing snow diminishing from south to north here across the Seward Peninsula, tapering off of the Yukon Delta. And then more significant amounts of snow will be on the southern slopes of these western mountains here in the Brooks Range. Not too much, if anything, over here to the east and northeast. Pretty good conditions with light offshore flow. Should result in pretty good flying conditions up there along the Arctic coastal region. And then high pressure builds in over the Copper River Basin, but a lot of low-level trapped moisture, so still some areas of flurries going on throughout much of the day Sunday. Eastern Alaska Range, but really tapering off in the Tanana Valley. And then the North Gulf Coast looks dry. Scattered snow showers here over the southeast coast, upper level trough swinging southeastward. And cold enough to be in the form of snow. Some much colder air spreads in to that area, at least bringing the snowfall levels down to sea level. And then for Monday, that remnants of that hanging around with some snow showers here over the central and southern southeast coast, but not all that heavy. Strong high pressure in over the Yukon, but not much of a gradient associated with that. So we're not looking for those northerly winds to be blasting through Lynn Canal like they have been known to do. Just, in fact, I think it's like north at 15 in the forecast there. Clouds spreading back in over the central interior and eventually off to the east. And then by the afternoon, as this strong front pushes inland, chance of snow increases. Kenai Peninsula, western Prince William Sound. Again, pattern not really conducive to much in the way of snowfall for the Cook Inlet area, especially from Anchor Point on up to Turnagain Arm and Palmer. But back along the Alaska Range, increasing winds. Could be probably be some blowing snow through the passes there, with snow and blowing snow with those winter weather or winter storm warning and blizzard warnings out for this entire area on Monday, and that'll extend and increase right up along the northwest coast there to Kivalina and Cape Lisburne. Winds will increase out of the south a little bit there, but that's going to keep conditions pretty fair with high ceilings, variable clouds, and pretty much fog and flurry free for the central and eastern Arctic coast. Won't be till you get to about Point Lay onto the southwest that you'll start to pick up the snow and lower flying conditions. St. Lawrence Island in between the low here to the southwest and then the front pushing in, so conditions will be on the upswing throughout the afternoon Monday. Lighter winds and that same pattern along the southwest coast, as well as the more stormy conditions advance eastward. Otherwise, a couple of troughs will bring some enhanced snow showers to the eastern Aleutians, and then this will be mostly up over the north, but that's poised to swing in across the Pribilofs. Probably Monday evening, higher pressure, less in the way of snow showers, if any at all, west of Adak. Temperatures this afternoon along the Panhandle, 40s for the most part. Wrangell, 37 degrees, 45 there at Annette, 42 Sitka with Skagway at 43. Got a 34 at Cordova with 29 Whittier. Mid to upper 20s here for Cook Inlet and Matanuska-Susitna Valley, 31 down at Homer, 20 degrees for Gulkana, and 12 Northway. That same temperature matched also at Fairbanks, and Tanana reached 17 farther north. Not too bad in the teens, except -2 at Arctic Village, 9 above Fort Yukon, while Ambler is up to 21. And along the Arctic coast, temperatures range from 5 below to 5 above across the entire coastline. 10 to lower 20s here for the Kotzebue Sound area, 16 there at Kotzebue, and 22 at Nome. 17 McGrath, and then 27 down at Bethel. Also 25 at Amonic with 20 degrees recorded at Savunga. Out in the Aleutians, 30 degrees, both at Adak and out at Shemya. St. Paul, 26 degrees, 33 on Alaska, and upper 20s to lower 30s, or actually in the 30s here for the peninsula, mid to upper 20s up toward Pilot Point on over to King Salmon, mid 30s for Kodiak. Lows for tonight into the 20s for Kodiak Island, as well as the Alaska Peninsula, into the teens, southwest interior, mid-teens, right up to the Nome area, and signal numbers over a big portion of the interior. Lower teens here, or back down into the teens for the south central area, south of the Alaska Range. Milder 30s there for the Panhandle. Highs tomorrow generally above 0, even over the North Slope and Arctic coast there. 0 to 10 for the highs. Teens south of the mountains, and then 20s now along the North Gulf Coast, with 35 there at Kodiak, mid-30s westward, all the way out to Shemya across the entire Aleutian chain, upper 30s near 40 for the Panhandle. And flying weather tomorrow again, as I mentioned, Arctic coast, VFR, as well as the North Slope, lower conditions south side of the Brooks Range, IFR up there over the eastern interior, and kind of a disorganized pattern out here in the west from VFR to IFR. And then the southeast coast here, looks like VFR along the coast and some IFR over toward the border. And of course IFR at the front, eventually pushing eastward tomorrow afternoon, advances to the Pribilofs southward across the Fox Islands. Marginal VFR in the increase to the Alaska Peninsula. Improving here over the interior with the southern slopes of the Berks Range, areas of marginal VFR, maybe over the Kuskokwim Valley. Otherwise, pretty good conditions here, Gulf of Alaska, right up to the Yukon Flats. And even better, lingering marginal VFR for the southeast coast. Stanutuvik, marginal at times, as well as Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, as well as Rainy, all VFR tomorrow. Windy, same forecast. And for Isabel, VFR, Mentasta, occasionally marginal. And for Tanita, looking wide open. Portage, VFR as well. Chilkoot and White keep marginal in the forecast there. Freezing levels, not much going on here. Surface near the Pribilofs to Kodiak Island, up along the North Gulf Coast. And then you've got 2,000 feet there over the southern Panhandle. Icing, areas of light icing basically. Probably won't be anything moderate here, above about 5,000 feet for the Panhandle. Another narrow swath here where that trough coming eastward could kick off some mixed icing. Kodiak Island into Cook Inlet, and then a bigger area out here, but still not all that serious. Pribilof Islands down to the eastern Aleutians. Actually, could be some isolated areas of moderate in that, and that's about it. And for the upper air chart, starting at 33,000 feet for the jet stream, southwest flow here, 100 to 150 knots, actually diminishing here into the Aleutians, with the main jet south of this low center, now cutting in south of the southeast coast. Southeast at about 50 over the interior. 9,000 foot wind flow chart shaping up something like this. Pretty strong winds out here with this system as it pulls northward west of the Pribilofs, putting a 65 knot wind value right on top of St. Paul. Southerlies 50 to 60 knots here in advance of the front, dropping back to 20 for St. Lawrence Island. And southerly winds on the increase for the western interior. Light variable with this low over the Copper River Basin, then west-southwest 25 to 35 into the Panhandle. 3,000 foot winds, same pattern, southwest 25 to 30 across the Gulf of Alaska into the southeast coast. Lighter, more variable winds, eastern interior becoming southerly and increasing 25 to 35 knots here along the west coast, and then 50 to 60 knot winds there for the Pribilofs, and west-southwest 30 to 35 behind the front, more southerly up to 50 knots in advance of the front. And for turbulence, moderate chop, pretty likely Alaska Peninsula all the way back to Nikolsky, and for the Pribilofs as well as the northwest coast there, the Noatak Valley region, with just light to isolated moderate chop here along the west coast, St. Lawrence Island. Pretty smooth here from Kodiak Island, no turbulence all the way up to the Arctic coast, pretty nice conditions. And then some bumpy conditions possible there below about 5,000 feet for the Panhandle. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine.
Welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining us once again is our good friend Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska. Thanks again for joining us, Eric. We really appreciate it, as always.
Happy to be here, Dave.
Thanks. And, you know, we're going to ask you some more satellite questions here, but, you know,
Okay.
since you're a regular guest, we're going to give you a riddle this time, kind of a trick start to the show.
Okay.
How do you see a polar bear in a snowstorm?
Sounds like a challenging question because
Okay.
the polar bear is white and the snowstorm's white.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Well, in the world of satellite meteorology, you couldn't, because the spatial resolution of this instrument that we're going to talk about today has 375 meters resolution, and even the most well-fed polar bear will not be 375 meters across.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to run into such a
No, it'd be a
creature,
bad day.
would you? In the satellite meteorology world, the equivalent would be, how do you tell the difference between clouds and then an area that has no clouds but's covered by snow,
Right.
a piece of ocean that has no clouds but has sea ice?
Oh.
All three of these are white.
Right.
The snow, the clouds, the sea ice, it's all white. So how, using satellite data, can you tell someone where the clouds are and where the clear areas are? This is important for aviators. Mariners want to know, in the ocean there, this white stuff, is that sea ice or is that just a cloud?
Right.
How do we tell the difference? And it turns out, if you look, say, at a picture of Alaska from the springtime, March or April, and it's high noon, so we're getting a lot of sunshine. If you were riding on a satellite with your human eye, look down, everything's white.
Right.
And we've got a picture of Alaska from early April, and we're seeing some of the lower elevations in south central Alaska are melting out, getting some brown ground there, but otherwise there's a whole lot of white on the image. What areas are cloudy, but what areas are clear and covered by snow or ice?
Okay.
It turns out that if we leave the visible spectrum behind a little bit, see, a satellite has multiple channels in the electromagnetic spectrum that it can look at.
Oh, okay.
Part of that's visible light, what we
Right.
see as humans, but there's a lot going on at other wavelengths. If we add in something that's called near infrared, what we couldn't quite see, but we're getting into that infrared territory, there's a magical property that we can exploit.
Secrets to find. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is actually powerful and almost magical, that at a slightly longer wavelength, when the sun shines down on Alaska and then it bounces off back to the satellite, at that near infrared wavelength, it turns out that snow and ice will absorb that wavelength, but liquid water, like liquid droplets in a cloud, will reflect it back.
Okay.
And that's not the way it works in visible. You know, visible, it just bounces off of all those targets the same. But at near infrared, snow and ice absorbs it, and the liquid will reflect it back. Liquid cloud droplets will do that.
Okay.
And so an image where everything looks white suddenly becomes colorful.
Oh,
And the way this recipe works is that the clouds look pink, and the snow-covered ground and the ice-covered ocean look blue. Suddenly now, we're able to see the polar bear in the snowstorm. We're able to see where the clouds are and where the snow is and where the ice is. This is a powerful advantage. Consider the case zooming into the Bering Strait area. What if you were asked to brief a pilot who wanted to fly, say, from Kotzebue down to Savunga or Gamble, and had to fly VFR, visual flight rules, so they had to stay out of the clouds? Could you use a satellite image where everything is white to provide that pilot any guidance?
It'd be pretty tricky.
Very tricky. And that's why we have to go to this other recipe where the all-white polar bear in the snowstorm becomes more colorful. And now we can tell the pilot, aha, this is a cloud you want to stay out of, but over here, sure, it looks white in the visible spectrum, but what we're doing, we'll show you, oh, this is just snow-covered ground, but it's clear, so you can fly right through there, visual flight rules. Same thing for a mariner who might want to get down to St. Lawrence Island, say, but has to avoid the sea ice. This product has applicability there as well.
Wonderful.
It's an amazing new technology, so many new channels. The satellite that makes this imagery actually has 22 different channels that it looks at.
22 secret decoder rings.
22 secret decoder rings.
Okay. You know, I liken this to an activity I had in the car when I was growing up. We go on long car rides, and we do all the work in these activity books to, you know, stay calm, cool, and collected for our parents who were trying to get us across the state. But to get the answer, the real answer, you had to apply that red sheet to see the answer or the secret path or whatever the message was in that activity book to get you onto the next page. And it's also like a photography filter, right? If you're taking a lot of pictures, you can apply different colors to see different parts of that image. I mean, that sounds a lot like what you're talking about.
Oh, you know it. The information is in there all along. We just have to combine the channels in a way to reveal what's in there. And by the way, you're dating yourself. So you didn't have an iPad in the back of the car?
No, sir.
Right? Okay. Well, we have, lastly, for dessert, there's a great image of the same kind of recipe. We're looking at South Central Alaska the first week of January. In first week of January, the sun, even at noon, is really low on the horizon, barely up. And in this image, the fun thing is the shadow of Dehne. We can see the shadow of Dehne over a lower pink cloud deck.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And Dehne at 20,000 feet casts a big shadow. So this is another, just for fun, kind of application here. This is called multispectral satellite imagery, and it's the future. And happily, the future is now.
Oh, that is fascinating. And 22 different secrets that can be revealed from just one satellite tool that's floating overhead. Eric, thanks so much for joining us again. We can't wait to have you back and telling us more secrets of satellite technology that are passing over us every single day, many times a day, over Alaska and helping us all the way in many different parts of our lives. So thanks so much for joining us again.
Well, happy to be here.
All right. And thank you for staying with us. We'll be back with a little more weather here in just a few minutes. And of course, we'll have more Alaska Weather Facts anytime online.
Welcome back. Sea ice analysis, not changed a whole lot that you can really see on this graphic, but some of this area here is actually kind of melded back a little bit, but really no big changes. But when that storm pulls in here west of the Pribilofs and those southerly winds kick in, definitely you'll be seeing it retreat back to the north and maybe northeast. On to the marine forecast here. Southeast coast, small craft advisories, west-northwest, 30 knots, possible gales there on the north coast. Otherwise, south 15 here for Lynn Canal, west-southwest 20 for the inside waters. Then for Monday, northwest winds 25 knots, just about the entire stretch here, but dropping back to 15 out of the west on the extreme north coast. Northerlies, again, as I mentioned, not too strong, 10 to 15 knots, and then picks up to 20 knots for Clarence Strait. And Prince William Sound, Cook Inlet, northeast 10 tomorrow, southwest 25 for Kamishak Bay, a tad lighter down Shelikof Strait. And then we've got small craft advisories here, east side of Kodiak Island and the Barrens, westerlies at 20 for the North Gulf Coast. They'll swing around to the south and come down a little bit, 10 to 15 forecast for Monday. East 15, Prince William Sound, light winds northern Cook Inlet becoming east at 20. Small craft advisories, Kamishak Bay, and gales, south 35 in Shelikof Strait. Bristol Bay tomorrow, light south winds, gales coming into the Alaska Peninsula, 35 to 40 knots. And then for Monday, 40-knot winds continue here. Now we've got storm warnings out from Castle Cape to Sitkinak, south 50 knots, seas building to 25 feet. And a full gale here for the Bristol Bay area, 40 knots out of the southeast. And again, 40 knots right across the peninsula. Fox Islands tomorrow, south, 45 knots. There, back to Nikolsky, front right through this area. So southwest coming down to 25 to 30 behind it, and then becoming more westerly and diminishing as you head down the Aleutian chain to Shemya. And 15 knots, all you'll see out over the western Aleutians on Monday. Small craft advisories kick back in here around Adak and Atka. All westerly though. This will be the zone of the strongest winds on Monday. Otherwise west-southwest 20 to 25 across Unalaska Island. For the southwest coast, small craft or brisk wind advisories 25 to 30 knots, and southeast 40 for the Pribilofs, and south 25 knots for St. Lawrence Island. Southeast coming up late in the day to 20 knots there for St. Matthew Island. And then for Monday, 40-knot winds out of the due south there for St. Matthew Island with 20-foot seas, dropping back to 25 knots out of the southwest for the Pribilofs. And then gales now south of Nunivak Island, 35 knots blowing right into Kuskokwim Bay, and a lot less gradient here, so only forecasting 15-knot winds north of Nunivak Island, but then back into the minimum gales for St. Lawrence Island. Arctic coast, pretty light and variable winds on the east side, and then picking up 15 knots from the southeast. Brisk wind advisories from Cape Beaufort all the way down to the Bering Strait. And that continues on Monday, southeast 25 to 30 knots here in the west, and then a little bit brisker there along the central and western coast, actually even on the east side there, up to 20 knots, and then lighter over toward Demarcation Point. For tonight again, that original low just pulls on up here and really falls to pieces, but there'll be some areas of snow left behind, extending all the way down to the North Gulf Coast. Probably a little more snow showery in this area, and then tending to diminish. This much weaker system keeps a chance of rain in across or mixed precipitation depending on elevation. For the Panhandle, a breakthrough here at Kuskokwim Valley into Cook Inlet, and then this next trough bringing some snow and snow showers inland from the coast, but stretching back to the Bering Strait, and then that next storm here, good front pushing eastward, which tomorrow will develop another low which will track northward. It's looking for pretty strong winds, definitely gales there for the Pribilof, snow and blowing snow there. The older low pulling northward, and looks pretty windy and snowy for the Seward Peninsula, but improving for the Yukon Delta, with snow extending up at least to the southern slopes of the Berks Range. And a band of snow showers here coming across south central Alaska and the valleys down to Kodiak Island. Light winds, high pressure, mostly cloudy flurries for the Copper River Basin. And then snow showers sliding southeastward across the Panhandle. Then for Monday, that kind of lingers here over the southern areas, but amounts won't be much at all. Colder air, but not too bad on the winds to the north. Front and the strong winds, winter storm warning watches out, as well as blizzard watches out due to this system as it comes in. Big increase in the winds, snow, blowing snow from the Kuskokwim Valley of the western Alaska Range right up to the northwest coast and Kotzebue Sound. Otherwise, increasing clouds over the eastern interior, snow showers out to the west.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
If you're interested in serving on your local Federal Subsistence Regional Advisory Council, the deadline to apply is Friday, February 3rd. Email subsistence@fws.gov for more information.